Good morning. So today I want to talk to you about something that we hear a buzzword often, and we probably associate it with something other than what it can mean. And this term that I want to talk about is self care. And we often hear about it in the sense of, I'm going to treat myself, I'm going to take care of myself, so I'm going to go do something that feels really warm and comforting, like get a massage or go to the spa or take a nap or whatever. Those are all really great things, and we've got to be taking care of ourselves in those ways. But what I want to talk about today is the importance of doing the self care that sometimes is really painful. And so this came about, this thought in my mind, because I recently went to the doctor and had my annual exam. And they check out all kinds of things. And in one of the tests that they did, something came back slightly abnormal. And so they called me up and they were like, hey, we don't want to alarm you, but something came back slightly abnormal. And what we want you to do now is come back for a follow up procedure where we just kind of go in and make sure that there's nothing to actually be concerned about. But you have to come back in and you have to have this next little procedure. So I went and did that this morning. And yesterday, as I was thinking about it, my brain started being like, oh gosh, I don't want to do it. I have too many things going on. Maybe I shouldn't do it tomorrow. Maybe I should put it off. And then I had this other thought. And let me tell you, there is so much power in the way that we think about things and the mindset that we have. And so if you are here and you relate to that, please drop something in the comments. If you're watching this on a replay, just do hashtag replay. I want to know that you were here and that you heard this message, because I think there are so many of you who will relate to this message. So I was starting to get afraid because I didn't want the procedure to hurt. I didn't want there to be any residual effect from it, and also being scared of, like, what if they do find something that's worse, and I don't really want to face that. But the reality is, whatever's happening in my body is happening in my body. So if I face it or not, it doesn't change whether or not it's happening. And the same goes for the self-care that we need to do that sometimes is painful. So I had to go in this morning and go through a procedure that was uncomfortable and a little bit painful. I'll tell you, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, which was fantastic. But I could have chosen to just ignore what the doctor said was good for me. I could have been like, well, if there's really something wrong, it will show up at some other point, so I don't need to really worry about it right now. But that wouldn't have actually been self-care. Self-care in this moment is doing the hard thing. It's following up with something that is a warning sign so that it doesn't become a major issue. And in your life, if there are relationships, thought patterns, self-doubt, behaviors that you repeat that are detrimental to you, if you are self-sabotaging, if you are getting in your own way of making forward progress into being the best version of yourself, there is self-care that you need to do that's going to be painful. But the importance of doing it now versus waiting is the same as my medical thing. If they find something now, it's very early, and so the idea of being able to treat whatever it is, my likelihood of kicking it to the curb is way high. If I would wait until there's symptoms, like right now there's no symptoms, I would have not known anything was even any abnormal. If I would wait until something showed up, the chances of me actually beating it are very low or much lower. That's the same thing in your life. So as you look at the things that you need to shift, self-care to become the best person that you need to be is probably going to require some sacrifice and some pain on your part, but it's worth it to do it now, because if you wait, it's going to be much harder to eradicate those negative things from your life. If you are dealing with negative people around you, if you are dealing with negative self-talk, if you are dealing with repetitive behaviors and patterns of being in this world, now is the time to start addressing that and doing the self-care to step out of those patterns and into a new space. It might be painful. It might take longer than you wish it would. But eventually, if you don't deal with those things, they will show their head somewhere in your life and probably affect your relationships. They'll affect your own view of yourself in much more drastic ways than they do right now. But if you deal with it now, with the temporary pain in the moment, your future is going to be better. So look for those warning signs right now. Listen to your doctors. And listen, I also just want to say, please make sure you are taking care of your health. It is so important. If you don't take care of it now, you're going to be forced to deal with it later. And it's much better to deal with it now at your convenience than to do it later when you're forced to do it. So I hope this has been encouraging for you. I just wanted to let you know that sometimes self-care is doing the hard thing. It's doing something that is uncomfortable, but it's because you know it's for the greater good of who you are. And yes, we need to be doing all those warm, fuzzy things too. Taking space, reading books, going to the spa, having a nap, like all those things that feel good, we also need to be doing that. But when you know that you've got a shift to make, you have a change that you need to have in your life, and you know it's going to be hard work, I promise you to dig in now and do the work. It's going to be so much easier than if you wait until there are more symptoms. It's going to be so much harder then. And just like a disease would grow, it maybe started, cancer will happen like that all the time. Like, it starts in one place, and if it's not dealt with, it spreads to other places, and then sometimes those places become worse. It's the same in your life. The toxic things that are happening, if you don't deal with it, they're going to spread to other areas of your life and be much harder to deal with. So do the self-care now and dig in. It's going to be worth it, but sometimes it's going to be hard.